we're talking about David Nichols. Travis told me about this. He was saying that David got some crazy DARPA grant to work on psychedelics, the use of, what was the psychedelic? Some sort of psychedelic for soldiers. And we actually looked it up, and it wasn't David Nichols. It was somebody else. It was, I think, the head of his department.
It's Brian Roth.
Brian, okay, yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And allegedly, I mean, who knows what the fuck DARPA is doing? Allegedly, according to the grant, according to all the published research on it, is that they're trying to take the psychedelic trip out of these drugs so that they can get the benefit of the therapy for use as a PTSD or battle fatigue, things like this. Mm-hmm. But according to Travis, there's this dude named Dana Beal who is trafficking ibogaine to the front lines of the Ukraine to give the Ukrainian soldiers so that they can enhance their edge detection and their aim on the battlefield. And also to combat battle fatigue so they can get right back out there and continue fighting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm friends with Dana Beal.
Are you really?
Yeah. Yeah. He's a character.
Wild dude.
Yeah, he's one of the original New York City psychedelic weirdos.
Oh,
and
okay.
Everybody knows Dana Beal.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that he's doing that. I would say that's a very separate thing from Brian Roth's work, which is funded by DARPA and is published and publicly available and brilliant and beneficial to all of humanity. It's actually not clinical work. It's basic scientific research that has been the most important work ever published on the structure of the serotonin 2A and 2B receptor. And he very recently published a new paper that goes even further in elucidating how different psychedelics interact with the protein and how these different types of interactions produce either psychedelic or non-psychedelic effects. So there's nothing even remotely nefarious about any of the work that Brian Roth is doing. It's some of the most important cutting-edge pharmacology on serotonin 2A agonists that exists.
And the idea, if I'm correct, is taking the trip out of the psychedelics so that people can get it without the sort of hallucination or
It's part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of it, definitely.
But the question is do you get that same benefit from these drugs without the psychedelic effect?
It depends on what benefit you're describing and what you're looking for and who the patient is and what the disorder is and exactly, because you conceivably have a full spectrum of psychedelic to not psychedelic. And maybe at one point on the spectrum for a certain type of person, you're getting the benefit and maybe not. And what about the duration? And what about the environment? And what about a million and the frequency of dosing and a million things? It's very hard to say what is optimal. I try to keep an open mind because I think people can be very moralistic about things like this, or they'll say like, oh, you're just commodifying this and destroying the spirituality and destroying the whole thing that makes this valuable and making it into the next Prozac.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand the argument, but we should explore everything and see what's out there, because Brian Roth's work, you could look at this two ways. You could say, oh, he's studying non-psychedelic psychedelics, but part of studying non-psychedelic psychedelics is also recognizing what creates a psychedelic. You can kind of move in both directions. So one of the big subjects of this work has been biased signaling at the serotonin 2A receptor, and whether a receptor interaction that is associated with something called beta-arrestin or GQ is responsible for the psychedelic effect. And this work has allowed us to better understand what makes psychedelic in terms of their molecular neuropharmacology. It's been very important. So I don't see these things as like two things that exist in opposition to one another. You could argue in the same direction and say that studying psychedelics shows you what you need for maybe like a in this instance, GQ biased path that would be more likely to be psychedelic. But I think the basic thing is like the psychedelic experience is incredibly powerful and is maybe unsuitable for certain types of people and maybe not beneficial. And if you had a way of dialing it down a little bit, that could allow certain benefits of psychedelics, which may have little to do with what we typically associate with the psychedelic experience, right? There's a neuroscientist, pharmacologist named Chuck Nichols, and he did a lot of work on the anti-inflammatory effects of different psychedelic compounds. So he's showing that there could be a therapeutic effect from psychedelics that's completely separate from what we typically conceptualize as the therapeutic effect of psychedelics, right? Same thing goes for treatment of addiction, treatment of cluster headaches, right? Thinking that the point of a psychedelic experience is have this religious, transcendent, hypervisual experience, I think is somewhat reductive, because who's to say what they can or can't do or should or shouldn't do? So I'm in support of people that are exploring every avenue of what can happen at serotonin receptors.
Yes. And the serotonin 2A receptor is what's primarily responsible for the psychedelic experience that you receive
with the classical psychedelics.
And we and humans have had this receptor forever, like as far as we know.
Seems like it, yeah.
So
I mean, even non-humans have it.
Even non-humans have it?
Even non-humans have it.
Like
rodents have it.
Rodents have a 2A receptor?
Oh, yeah.
So do we know, or do we have, there's no way to know if they can experience anything similar to what we experience when you give them these drugs.
There's no way to know whether another human being is experiencing anything similar to what you're experiencing.
That's a really good point.
There's a lot of unknown when it comes to the internal experience of another organism.
Yeah.
But what we do know, and it sounds incredibly abstract, but it's actually a robust predictor, is that when you give a rodent a 5-HT2A agonist that has GQ bias signaling and even balanced, it seems to cause their heads to twitch. And that head twitch is strongly associated with psychedelic effects. In humans, there are exceptions, but it's for something as abstract as this sort of wet dog shake, head twitch thing, it's pretty good. It's better than you would think. It's the sort of thing where if you're looking at a scientific paper, you could laugh at it and say, oh, they're saying this mouse switching its head predicts psychedelic activity in humans. These silly scientists, they're so, they don't get it at all. Turns out it's actually pretty damn predictive.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do we know about, like, other than like, I know you can reduce the dose of these things and like microdose things like psilocybin and other stuff, but like, what are the performance enhancing effects of psychedelics? And like, is there like an optimal dose for like cognitive enhancement? Because I know there's like a correlation with psychedelics and like growth of new neurons in the brain. Is this right?
Under some experimental conditions, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, it's so hard to say because what constitutes performance enhancement could be radically different between people.
Sure, and what's the goal?
Yeah, performance enhancement for a guitarist might be totally different for an air traffic controller.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I just always thought that this stuff made people smarter because the smartest people I know are like take a lot of psychedelics.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a psychologically interesting experience that maybe certain types of people are drawn to, or interested in consciousness. And yeah, I would hesitate to say that it can make you smarter, but I think it can make you more aware of certain things, and it can be very inspiring for some people. And for someone like me that's not religiously inclined, it can give you a taste of what I imagine religious experiences like for people that are.
Yeah.